Hey everyone, and welcome to the Pisgah Podcast.
We are your hosts. I'm Mangler, and that is Drew, and you are listening to Pisgah. We're coming to you live from the Island Park in Cherokee with our butts in the river.
Right on. Good place to hang out and cool our butts down, right?
Yeah. Dude, we rode bikes there this weekend.
Yes, we did. After my poor planning, our Canuga ride didn't happen, but we did get a good lap out in Big Ivy.
I mean, I'm not complaining. I had a great time getting out into that side of the forest, but we talked bikes and podcast stuff, which for this week's episode was kind of easy because we've got a good amount of updates.
Indeed. Unlike prior to last week's episode of news content, this week we actually have some excitement for the news. Lots of races happened. First up, obviously, the Olympics are going on, which is pretty exciting. And representing the United States of America, Christopher Blevins came in 14th, and Kate Courtney came in 15th. I will have to say that the commentating is pretty subpar, especially when compared to Rob Warner and what we're used to hearing from him with the Red Bull coverage. But then again, Rob was calling a Red Bull event out in the UK, Red Bull's Hardline race, which is, I have to say, that's mountain biking's nuttiest racetrack.
Dude, I caught the last 6 runs of that. Oh my God. It's insane. I was just constantly blown away by every single person's run and how gnarly that stuff looks. And a lot of times stuff just doesn't come across on camera as looking gnarly like that. But dude, that track was insane.
It goes to show sometimes what the fun line isn't always the fast line.
Exactly. Yeah, the Olympics should have just hired out to the production company that does the Red Bull stuff and then saved themselves the trouble. And it would have been way more exciting.
For sure. Rob would have lit it up when Matthew Vanderpool went over the bars on that drop. And, you had Yolanda Neff on the other hand in the women's XCO, and she was forced to make that drop by her competitor, Pauline Ferrand-Prévot, and nearly escaped a bad crash doing so. But, you and I both know that Yolanda is no stranger to the Pisgah and was able to turn that situation into an opportunity to take a gap over Pauline and take the Olympic gold in a very convincing fashion.
Dude, she straight murdered that race. I feel bad for everyone. At one time, she had a 1:40 lead over those girls and just kept cruising. She was literally having fun. Also, not to mention, usually cross-country courses look pretty boring, but that course, I would be really psyched to ride that course.
Yeah, I would too, and I saw the test event a couple of years ago, and it's mostly unchanged, and they put a lot of work into it, and they've maintained something worth watching there for sure.
Absolutely. I was kind of let down by the excitement of the race broadcast, but I'll tell you who is excited, and that is Pisgah Podcast guest numero uno, Miss Callie Horath, and Canuga for celebrating their 1-year anniversary this past weekend.
Yeah, cheers to 1 year, Canuga. I would be attending a work party there on this Friday after work, but I'm going to actually be back at Snowshoe for a few days.
Dude, it's like we keep bouncing back and forth with our bike park trips, but, one day we'll get in sync and rip some laps together. But so while riding Katsuma with next week's podcast guest, we ran into some local XC racers filming, some YouTube content at the bottom of Katsuma there in the picnic area. I'd almost forgot about Jordan and ORAM were this past weekend.
Yep, they were. And yeah, I've got a love-hate relationship with ORAM. I've participated a few times, and I always swear that I'm never going to do that race again. But then registration opens, and I just get eager to beat a previous finishing time that I've got. But yeah, as far as results go, the ORAM Open Women's Top 3, we had third place going to Beata Ronska of Brevard, North Carolina. Second place finisher was Madison Maloney of Hudson, North Carolina. And finishing first is Brevard's Hannah Ahrensman. And the Open Men's Top 3, we had Dylan Johnson of Brevard finishing in third. Carson Beckett, also of Brevard, finishing second place. and first place finishing in the cosmic time of 4 hours and 20 minutes was Luke Braunvelder of Charlottesville, Virginia.
Man, Brevard wrapping it at ORAM. It's kind of nice to see a bunch of North Carolina heads up there instead of a bunch of Floridians.
Yeah, and if you look at any of the age category races, you will definitely see a lot of out-of-towners, namely a bunch of people from Florida. And, it used to be a meme and kind of a joke, but now I'm actually pretty psyched to see that, out-of-towners hold this event in such high regard, because it really is an event that you don't have to go try to win. It's when you've just got to go try to better your previous time if that's what matters to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And to continue our race wrap-up coverage, the Downhill Southeast race number 3 happened back at Windrock this past weekend. A few shout-outs here. Friend of the podcast, Gus Michaels, pulled a 3rd place in the single crown category. Carolyn Washam of Dirty Mooresville, she came in 1st in pro women's. And it was nice to see Nico back on the top step, taking 1st in pro men's.
Certainly, yeah, definitely good to see Nico getting back up there on the top step. So, who have we got for this week's interview?
This week's interview is Jeremy Hyatt. He is over the Cherokee Fire Mountain Trails, and I reached out to him a while back, and we kind of bounced back and forth with some scheduling things to try to get things lined up for an episode, and had a really good time out there hanging out with him and checking things out. He gave me a little tour of the trails, which I'd ridden before, but it was cool to ride with a local, check things out. But yeah. Well, Jeremy, thanks for taking the time to sit down with me here today. Can you kind of give us an intro to who you are and what it is that you do here in Cherokee?
Sure. Thanks for having me. Been really looking forward to this. I'm Jeremy Hyatt, Secretary of Operations for the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians. I am over 17 programs within the boundary, from EMS, fire, to wastewater, water treatment, also project management, which was the program that built Fire Mountain. And it's just been, it's certainly a busy job. We have about 450 employees under the operations division. I have worked for the tribe for right at 19 years. That includes my time at the casino as well. I've worked for 3 administrations, and it's a big job, and working with a lot of great people. Luckily, I have a lot of really, really great people working with me, my colleagues and my junior colleagues that I really appreciate, and they're top shelf people. Luckily, I have those guys.
Well, it sounds like you've got some pretty important things under your umbrella of care. How do the mountain bike trails fall into that?
It's a small piece of what I do. Fire Mountain Trails was built under, like I said, under project management. It was we did the ribbon cutting in 2017, so we're 4 years in now. That was June 2017. It's kind of like the project management team built the trails. We had them built for a particular reason. They have kind of expanded beyond our imagination in terms of popularity and regional significance, rather. At this juncture, it really has no home other than project management. I'm over project management, and because it's my labor of love, I just kind of take care of pretty much all the aspects of it. And so if you wanted to call me something, it would be kind of like the land manager for Fire Mountain Trails.
Okay. What came first, you mountain biking or you taking on the project management of Fire Mountain?
I started mountain biking when I was 15.
Okay.
My dad got me into it. I wasn't much into ball sports necessarily. My dad, after he and my mother divorced, he got into cycling. He used to be a runner and certainly a weightlifter, and he got into riding bicycles. And what I would do is, whenever he got his first bicycle, I would ride my little crappy BMX bike, and Lord, it killed me. It was tough. Riding around here is tough. And then he got himself a mountain bike, because what he had was a road bike. He had got himself a mountain bike, and he'd let me ride it. It was an old 1987 Diamondback Apex, and we would go ride, and I would follow him while he was on the road. Kind of after that, when I was 15, he got me in my own mountain bike, and I've been doing it ever since, off and on to some degree. Yeah, ever since then, ever since I was 15, I've been riding either a mountain bike or a road bike.
Where would you go ride a mountain bike at in this area, pre-Fire Mountain?
Did a lot of Solly.
Okay.
A lot of Solly. We built trails on our own property. Mm-hmm. Also some in Bent Creek. He was very familiar with Bent Creek because used to be able to ride motocross over there.
Really?
Yep. And he was very familiar with that, so we'd ride Bent Creek some.
Okay.
A little bit of Pisgah, not much. Pisgah at that point was beyond my threshold, but he did more road riding, so we were on that whenever, especially when I was younger. I was following him on the road a lot, but in terms of trails at that point, the offering wasn't quite as much as it is now, certainly.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, a lot of Solly, some Bent Creek, local trails around our house, and that sort of thing.
Okay, cool. How did Fire Mountain kind of get started? What was the driving force to get that put in place?
Former employee of project management, her name is Tanya Jinks. I'll always give her credit for having for providing the idea for Fire Mountain. She used to work for project management. She was a planner, and we call her Tinker. That's hence the name Tinker's Dream of the entry trail right there.
Nice.
She was the biggest proponent of all of it. She had always talked to me about it, and I had no purview over project management at the time, but she did a ton of the legwork to get it going. Wrote for the grant for the Preservation Foundation, got the grant, $10,000 for the design, went through all the rigmarole going through tribal council to get the property assigned to her. She did a lot, and it wasn't easy. Her idea initially was to give people another alternative other than ball sports to get out and be active. In the South, on the koala boundary, there's a prevalence of diabetes and obesity. She wanted to give our tribal members another option, and that's what I think her initial idea was. In doing so, before we started building, she left project management, went to work for the Cherokee Preservation Foundation, so it kind of landed in my lap once I took over, or it still stayed in project management. We executed the funding for the build, and in 2015 is when we started with the contract, and that's what we have today. Fortunately, it has grown beyond something of just local folks having an opportunity to get out and get active, which is certainly what they are doing. However, it's become kind of a regional hotbed. It seems the popularity of it has far outreached, or it reaches further than I ever anticipated, and it's really great.
Where are you seeing visitors come from?
Oh, certainly all over the Southeast. Most of our visitors come from this region, obviously, but we've seen people come from all over Europe. We've seen people come from obviously all over the United States. I think we've been visited by I bet we've had people from every state. I can just about guarantee that. We go up to the parking lot every time. You'll run into somebody or a group of guys that have said, "Well, this is a true story." Ran into a group of guys. Yeah, we're down in Tampa. We just decided we were going to ride up here, see what all the fuss was about. 10 guys. We love it. It's great. We enjoy it. Can't wait. We love this area. And then they would start with Fire Mountain, go to Pisgah, go to Solly, go wherever they're certainly familiar with it. I'd say most of our visitors come from East Tennessee, North Georgia, and certainly Western North Carolina.
So when the plan was put in place to start building Fire Mountain, was there any other reservations that you guys could turn to for, inspiration or any guidance on how to go about this process?
No, sir. From my understanding, we are the first and only federally recognized tribe in the United States that has purpose-built single track. So, no, we didn't really follow that. There was no one to follow in terms of Indian country to look at. There's no place else we could go and say, hey, what did you guys do right here? It was kind of an organic thing that just happened, and we got very lucky in terms of the popularity of it. We could have made significant missteps, but we've had a lot of partners that have helped us find our way in that regard. We hired a fantastic trail builder. I think the vision was sound to start with. There's a lot of local folk around that kind of gave us guidance. Our friend Josh Whitmore, whenever Tinker was first looking into the design, she had talked with him, and a lot of the Nantahala area Sorba folks. And so that's how she got some of her guidance. There was no Indian country sort of aspect to it, I think we're the first, and I still think we're the only, which is kind of cool,
Yeah. Now, when it comes to Indian country, it seems the Cherokee area is a lot different and more open compared to other reservations out west. What's the difference in how this place operates as opposed to out west?
Sure. Well, It's not it's not the same as a reservation. We call it the Koala Boundary. We have 16,000 citizens, right around 56,000 acres on the Koala Boundary and other trust lands. That doesn't include deeded property. At one point, we covered 7 states. We were all over the Southeast. But after removal in the 1830s, after the Indian Removal Act in the 1830s, those that resisted, stayed here. And through other folks, they were able to purchase this property and make it all contiguous. And I want to say in 1867, give or take, this land was put into trust. And then we gained our charter in 1873. That's when we became a recognized tribal government and became the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians. I want to say that's 1873. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's it.
We're not nitpick you
some
on
people,
exactly.
Some people will hang me up for that. But whereas other reservations throughout the country, after removal, that's a set aside determined by the federal government saying this is where you're going and this is where you have to stay. That was not necessarily the case here. We are on trust land, but it was not a reservation set aside for us.
Okay. I did some research on kind of how the backstory, during the Trail of Tears and everything, how a lot of local natives went and basically hid in the Smokies until things kind of calmed down. Then they came back out and
that's certainly part of it.
Set claim.
That's it was a resistance for sure.
Kind of going back to the trails, you mentioned you guys had a great trail builder with a good vision between all parties involved. Who did the design and build?
Trail Dynamics out of Pisgah Forest. You may know him, Ed Sutton.
Yep.
Terrific guy, terrific crew. We could not have asked for a better partner. He's still a partner. He still does work for us. He's terrific. Cannot give him more kudos than I can't give him enough kudos. Right?
Yeah.
He's a terrific guy. He is such a supporter and friend of the Eastern Band. He's become a friend of mine personally, and all our riders, everybody knows him.
Yeah.
They see Ed, it's like, "Ooh, Ed's here. What's happening?
Yeah.
Oh, it's going to have something cool now." Yeah. And sometimes he'll come up for the group ride we have on Thursdays and just chill out. He's a great dude. And if he's ever in the area, I think he's doing some work out in the Fontana area right now, redoing some of those trails. He's just a terrific guy and an excellent trail builder.
Yeah, he's definitely put his mark on Western North Carolina trails. So he's got a style, and I immediately recognized it riding here. So I'm like, this is Ed Trail.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. And that's what I love about this area and seeing all the different trails and all the trail builders. You can pick that out.
Yeah.
You can pick out that flavor.
You just mentioned something that I wasn't aware of. You mentioned a Thursday social ride. Tell me about that.
A few months ago, we just started doing the Thursday social ride. It's a very chillaxed sort of thing. Wheels down at 6. We have, and it's usually around one loop to the top. And it's a no drop social ride. It gets our local community involved. We have local folks, and we have visitors. We have anybody that wants to show up. It's all welcoming, and then afterward we'll go down and we'll have hot dogs and refreshments, and it's open to anyone. It's a great way to get our local community, our enrolled members, our tribal citizens up and getting riding. We have probably, I'd say that it's about half and half tribal members and other local folk throughout the Jackson and Swain County. It's just been a tremendous success. It really allows us to intermingle and get new knowledge, or allows newbies to get new knowledge with folks that have been riding for a long time. And it's not the most important thing, in my opinion. It's not a ton of pressure.
Yeah.
You can go as slow as you want. Afterward, we're all going to be back down here at 7:30. We're going to have hot dogs and a beer. You know, come on, one, come all. And it's just such a good experience. I think it's nothing. Hammerheads can go to the top as fast as you want, but if you don't want to, that's fine too.
That's what's great about this chill, no drop social rides.
Exactly.
Just party pace.
Exactly. That's exactly it. And you want to stop. If we'll all stop together. We're in no rush.
Yeah.
One thing about this industry, in my opinion, is it's tough to feel comfortable when you're first entering as a newbie. If you've not been on a bicycle since you were 14 years old and now you're 40.
Yeah.
It's not the easiest thing. This social ride and this bike community that we're trying to create here, we want to make it inclusive. We want to make it easy to access.
Yeah.
And I think we're doing that pretty well.
Awesome. You mentioned that you guys just crossed your 4-year anniversary mark.
That's right.
and the trails kind of took off more than you guys anticipated. How have they grown over the years, and kind of how's that vision continuing?
The initial build was on about 212 acres, give or take. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to expand off beyond that yet. So what we're trying to do is create flavor within what we already have.
Mm-hmm.
If there's we've created a new little chill area. We call it Lower Tinker's Dream. It's just a different way out. Put few little features in there. We try to do something new every year, minus last year, or well, actually, minus. I don't count COVID.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everyone just erased 2020 off the books.
No kidding.
Didn't happen.
No kidding. And just create. Like we built pavilions, a place to gather. Mm-hmm. Two of them, the Raven's Roost at the top and the Overlook Lounge at the bottom, at kind of the midway, or not midway point, kind of at the bottom. We've created a new Black Diamond Trail. We've taken what was called Kate's Wave and turned it into Skili, which is basically a phantom or ghost in Cherokee. And that's our only Black Diamond course, our only Black Diamond Trail. We've built jumps, bigger tables, really nice manicured tables, wooden features, gaps, that sort of thing.
Some cool stuff.
Yeah, I think so. It's short, but it's for that upper level.
Mm-hmm.
We never had that before. Each year we try to add just a little bit of flavor within what we have on that 212 acres. And that's where having a guy like Ed or having a trail builder like that in Trail Dynamics, they can come in and say, look, all right, what do you guys want to do? This is kind of what we're going to do to make it great. And he's right on the mark as to what we're trying to accomplish. What we hope to do though in the future is look for other properties and find other properties to perhaps expand on.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's cool to, as your trail network grows and as the locals grow with it, you can go back and evaluate a trail a year or two later and kind of check out the lines that people are riding. Okay, this feature may not be working because we're noticing that pretty much everyone rides around it.
That's right.
So let's take this out and let's redo something over here to kind of, add another little notch in there to step it up a little bit, to have something new for someone to grow a skill on.
That's exactly right. And we've done that on several spots on the existing trails. Kessel Run, for instance, there was an area that just didn't really feed well. The flow wasn't really great. As you take a right-hand corner, we built a new table. It fed into that corner better, bermed it and banked it a little bit, and now it's super fast and super fun.
Nice.
But you knew whenever it was the original design and the original build that it was like this is not fun. This is not as flowing. It's not continuing on. Ed and can pick up that stuff real quick, and it's very, very simple to fix. And he just brings his guys in and takes care of it.
Talk to me about the trail names, because there's some interesting names across the board. Some Star Wars references and obviously some Indian references. Yeah. So talk to me about that a little bit.
Most of them are Indian references. Most of them are native Cherokee references. Obviously, the Kessel Run is our Star Wars reference. Yeah, mm-hmm. And I mentioned Skili, which is the phantom or the ghost. Uktena is the serpent with the giant serpent with the jewel in its forehead, and also with antlers. And it's all mythology. Mm-hmm. Spearfinger is a mythological figure as well. And we wanted to incorporate the traditions and the culture into our trail system. And we wanted to, because whenever you go, you're being educated. You may not even know it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how we wanted to go into this. But also we have Tinker's Dream, Lazy Elk. That's pretty simple. We have Waya, which is wolf. And, trying to incorporate some of those things in, because if there's one thing you can say about Cherokee is we have such rich tradition and culture, and if any opportunity I can get or we can get to get that into the mindset of everyone here, we certainly want to do that.
So Western North Carolina is mostly covered with public lands that allow recreational use, but a lot of those areas are national forest or state park that have limitations on the allowance of e-bikes. Mm-hmm. With Canoga and then you guys and a couple other small networks, what was the decision to allow e-bikes?
It was never a decision, in my opinion. I've been given a lot of carte blanche to allow or disallow what's up there. I've been, I'm very lucky in that regard. It was never an issue for me. Anyone that poo-poos an e-bike is a Class 1 e-bike has never thrown their leg over one. It's not a motorcycle. I firmly believe that. It's not degrading our trails. It's not doing anything but allowing people, for instance, my father, who's now 73 years old, allowing people who may not want to ride so hard, may not want to climb that anymore. So what it does is it still allows him to go and do it, or allows anyone that wants to get to the top of Fire Mountain, they can do it on an e-bike. And it doesn't mess up our trails.
Yeah.
So I have never had an issue with it, and I'm a big proponent of it. We don't allow anything with a throttle. It's all pedal assist, and there's a lot of folks that don't want to get to the top by huffing it up through there, and that's fine. I've got no issue with that. It allows moms and dads to ride with their kids. Maybe will allow me and my dad to ride more into his golden years. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I've never had an issue with it, and so from the very beginning in 2017, we've always allowed it.
That's cool to hear. Have you been able to keep track numbers wise, like e-bikes to pedal bikes, how it's looking?
No, not really. We haven't been able to differentiate that. I could probably ask Kent at Motion Makers, our local bike shop. I could ask him what his ratio is in terms of rentals. Obviously, the e-bike is significantly more expensive than most entry-level mountain bikes, so it's probably few and far between. But I still see them. I still see them up there. It's hard to. We have trail counters up there that are just starting getting good data.
Okay.
But it doesn't differentiate obviously from the e-bike and the regular bicycle.
Yeah. And, a lot of time, I know Strava has an e-bike option. So there's that, but then how many people are actually leaving it as e-bike or leaving it as a regular ride?
And how many people are, I know a lot of people are using Strava, but you're going to miss people that don't know anything about Strava also.
Exactly. Let's take a step back to the year that didn't exist, 2020.
Yeah.
So it brought a lot of challenges, but also it kind of opened people's eyes to equality and hopefully respect. So for the first part of this question, how did you guys handle COVID? I know you were shut down for a bit, and kind of what was that decision like?
Let me just say this, I am so proud of our tribal government for the way they handled the COVID situation. It seemed like the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians was a step ahead of everyone else in the region in terms of our response. I could not be prouder of our leadership for that, particularly our chief. We even shut down our borders to allow only people that work here and residents to come in and out. We had blockades, and it shut down our trails for a little while. And what's funny is I remember when the chief gave the call to shut down all of the outdoor opportunities, the Island Park, Fire Mountain. We were actually on a group ride. It was a different group ride. It was just haphazard. I think it was April 8th or something like that.
Okay.
But I remember that, and we were sitting there having hot dogs and looking down. I was like, gosh, guys, this stinks. We're being shut down. What's great, though, is the realization, 2-3 weeks later, the chief gave the go-ahead for allowing citizens and tribal citizens to go ahead and continue using it. It did, obviously we took a hit as bad as anyone else did, but the way we responded in terms of, because we took extreme measures to make sure we could protect our elders and protect our native speakers. And I'm just, like I said, I'm just so proud of how we responded to it with the resources, with the personnel.
Yeah.
In terms of everybody jumped in, pitched in. It was, and obviously we have our sovereignty as well. It was a confluence of so many things coming together: the people, the resources, the management of it all, the leadership. I couldn't be more proud.
Then during the middle of this whole pandemic we're all going through, the U.S. kind of had an awakening moment of importance of racial injustice and how it is affecting people's lives, especially Native Americans. So with all that happening during 2020, since you guys reopened and started welcoming visitors back, months ago, have you noticed any changes? Not
particularly. Other than just a lot more people, it seems.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like the floodgates have opened up, especially people coming from cities to certainly. You can't buy a house. You can certainly sell one.
Yeah.
You can't buy a house. You see more people on the trails. I think in terms of interaction, there's been no issue in terms of interaction from my perspective. other than just, like I said, more people. In terms of how racial injustice and so on and so forth, I'm no sociologist. I have no inkling as to how we cure those issues. But I know that in terms of what cycling has done, or what this bicycling community has done here, it's certainly the interactions locally from our neighbors in Swain County and Jackson County have been great, especially from the cycling community, from the cycling perspective.
Yeah, that definitely connects and breaks boundaries and, links people together.
I have never seen anything break boundaries as well as cycling has done.
Yeah.
And especially when you have, I have so many stories. I have so many stories of our native fathers taking their sons on the trail, of young women that hadn't ridden bicycles since they were 14, and yet they come and they race the Inferno.
Yeah.
And our leaders now in this cycling community. It's so wonderful to see all of these great stories of some of our people that are in recovery. Well, they found a new drug, and that's in mountain biking. It's wonderful.
Nice. So how important is it building recreational opportunities here in the Boundary?
Well, I think it's just as important as anywhere else. Obviously, we've had ball sports for forever. This is the South. This is Western North Carolina. When I was growing up, football, baseball, basketball, all that was king.
Yeah.
And it was free. No one had to, you could do it through school, and everyone did it. There was no need. Well, not to say that there was no need, but there was not much call for that other activity. And that's one of the things too. I think, and everyone did it, whether you're white, black, Cherokee, it didn't matter. Everyone was playing football, basketball, or baseball. Very few, including myself, were actually out trying to find other opportunities, whether it be cycling or whitewater rafting, something like that.
Yeah. When it comes to recreation and sports stuff like that, how do Native Americans view something like a team sport versus an individual sport?
Like I said, probably the same as every other community around here. I think once those opportunities are made available, whenever they're more reaching the forefront, I think it's just your individual taste and what you want to do.
Okay.
This is the South. Those team sports are huge. You know as well as I do. And right now, I think that what's different between when I was growing up and now is that those ideas are kind of penetrating this area. Mountain biking, whitewater rafting, been here forever, but they weren't really. They were available to everyone, but everybody here was poor when I was growing up. This is a socioeconomic thing more than it is anything else, I believe. Everyone here was poor. There was, there's not a whole lot of affluence here, and so those were the sports people gravitated toward. If you were a boater or a cyclist, those were expenses that you may not have, that your family may not have to get into.
Yeah.
And then all of the extras that go with it. The few trails there at that point there were, and then if you wanted to ride, you had to go somewhere else, other than if you wanted to ride Solly or something like that. I was lucky; my dad just got into it. He wasn't affluent either. It was just he didn't drink or smoke or anything like that, and he saved his money. And what he wanted to do, he went full bore into it. So I was very fortunate to have a father that was into the outdoors and always has been. But we did it on a budget. That's for sure. We did it on a budget.
How has support been for getting new youth interested in mountain biking and the trails?
It's been great. The support has been great through certainly the local high schools. Cherokee Middle School has a program. Swain High is starting, I think, a mountain bike program. But mainly it's just the local community is seeing what's happening, wanting to be involved in that. They see the buzz going around with, hey, they've got a new bike shop in town. Let's go check out, see what's going there. We know our friends that are going up to ride Fire Mountain. We know some other folks that are road riding. The support is definitely coming from leadership. Our biggest champion is Chief Sneed, and many of the members of council are definitely into this idea of getting our local folk involved, but also creating an outdoor economy here. And so we've received a lot of support. And all of that starts with, in my opinion, families and children.
Yeah.
You can have all of the skillies that you want. You can have all the black diamonds you want, but you're only getting a certain market there. You're only getting a few people that are going to actually go ride that. It's a great thing to have, but you have to have that middle part where the intermediate rider, But you also have to have a significant amount of input from, you want to drop I keep saying this, 'cause I'm stealing this from a friend of mine, the entry point has to be low.
Yeah.
That is super important. And in terms of moving forward with Fire Mountain and any other bicycle endeavor we do, that is our main focus, is to get the entry point low so that we have kids out there on strider bikes along with their mom and dad who may not have been on a bicycle in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And yet in a safe environment, something that's low consequence, those are kind of the ideas. We've had a lot of support for that very thing from the local community and also from our leadership.
You mentioned Motion Makers earlier, and they've since opened up a location here in Cherokee, and that says a lot about their commitment to the area, that, you know, the community is supportive and also that the trails are doing well. Because a bike shop's not going to come open up if there's not anything to do here with it.
That's exactly so, and we couldn't have asked for a better partner, a community partner, than Motion Makers. Terrific bunch of folks. Kent and his staff, top shelf. My dad, those mountain bikes he first got in his first road bike, and every bicycle I think I bought has come from Motion Makers. Even whenever it was the only shop was in Silva and it was owned by different folks.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't ask for a better partner and just a better bike shop in terms of service and community input. And you know, if we ever need anything, he's always there in terms of sponsorships, in terms of just general support.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's great to have.
If we have people that come in for, say, an event, a tribal event, and they want to go ride, I can call Kent, and he's very amenable to really taking care of us.
Yeah. Speaking of events, you guys have had the Inferno, which is like your enduro race past couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
How has that been going on?
It's been great. It's a 2-day event. It's an enduro and cross country. We usually have around 300, 350 riders. This past year was a little low just due to the fact of we had our COVID. So we didn't have we didn't have the event in 2020, so that carried over to 2021. We had a lot of attrition due to that, I think. It's been wonderful. Like I mentioned earlier, we have local tribal members that are now racing in that thing. And they've been on a bike. They've been mountain biking for, say, a year and a half or so, and it's just so great to see. And you see tribal members on the podium. You know,
nice.
It's wonderful.
Yeah,
we've got the enduro on Saturday. We have the cross country on Sunday. You know, a lot of hard chargers on for both of them.
Mm-hmm.
Really great cyclists that still come from the area. I think it's fairly inexpensive in terms of entry fees, but yeah, the swag is phenomenal.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's kind of how we hustle for those sponsorships too, to get funding and swag for it. And it's not an event that is it's sponsored by the tribe, but it's not funded by the tribe. One of the few events around that is not funded by the tribe, and we just hustle for sponsorships, and it's been very successful so far. And I think we're going to keep doing it until we see a wane in folks not wanting to.
Yeah. When it comes to trail maintenance, how is that handled? Is it like a volunteer local organization, or?
Sometimes you're looking at it.
Yeah.
We have Ed under contract for a maintenance schedule, does it 3 times a year. But also, if there's something big, the other day we had a big tree down.
I saw that photo.
Yeah. We had a big tree down, and just so happened he was in the area, and I didn't want to fool with it. I'm not good enough with the saw to mess with that big tree. So he just happened to be in the area, and he came up, brought his saw with him, and cut it out of the way while we were on the trail. Rode down and hung out for a minute, had a beer, and big stuff like that. Sometimes Nantahala area Sorba will help out. I'm sorry, not for big stuff like that, but whenever there's a tree across or something like that, Nantahala area Sorba will help out, particularly Peter Tay. He's a really good friend of ours, president of that organization. Also, I will go cut if I need to. I've got an e-bike that I will take up sometimes, or if I really want a good hump, carry the saw on my back and carry it up on my conventional bicycle. Yeah.
How much does Cherokee rely on tourism, and kind of what's the best way for someone interested in Cherokee to come visit and give local support?
Mm-hmm. Oh, we're a gaming tribe now. We have Harris Cherokee Casino up here. Mm-hmm. It's a Caesar's property now. Prior to that, we were strictly tourism. That's all our cultural partners, everyone. And unfortunately, during the winter, you could see 40% unemployment. Well, that's all changed now since we've got the casino, and that's just done so much for the region, so much money for the region. It's been great. So we still rely on a lot of tourism, but mainly our income these days is from gaming.
Okay.
That is the biggest influx of funding for the tribal government, for any tribal program or operation. But it's kind of been forgotten that we are a tourist industry here. We have a significant tourist industry here, and we have so many great things. If you're going to come ride Fire Mountain, don't forget to stop at the Indian Village, the Oconaluftee Indian Village. Don't forget to stop at Unto These Hills and watch the show. It's phenomenal. Stop by the museum, the Cherokee Indian Museum. It's really, really, we've got so many cultural partners here. Plus, we have a ton of other things to do. We have some of the best trout waters in the nation. Bring your fishing rod.
Yeah.
We have when we have guides, and there are local guides, and it's just, you have that. You can go tube if you want to. You can tube down the river. You can go to the island park and just chill and have a picnic. We are surrounded by some of the most gorgeous mountains in the world.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
We have such rich culture. I think we have so much to offer. I believe, in my opinion, it's only going to get better too. We have plans for certainly the expansion of Fire Mountain into another area with that low kind of, that entry point, keeping that entry point low, building something new, which will be coming out soon. We've also started construction on a brand new disc golf course, 18-hole championship level disc golf course, which we hope to open by October or November.
Okay.
Yeah, really excited about those things. You've got the park. We have 11 million people coming through from the park every year. Sky's the limit here if you want to be outside.
Awesome.
And obviously with the cultural partners to be able to, certainly go to the village, Unto These Hills and the museum.
So how can our listeners best keep up with, what Fire Mountain has going on and also Cherokee itself?
Certainly go to www.visitcherokeenc.com. That's where our main tourism post is. That's where that's where you can get tickets. You can get you can schedule things through that. It's a great website. Fire Mountain specifically, our Facebook and Instagram page is definitely the place to go for that. That's where we update most everything. Trail closures. Unfortunately, we sometimes don't keep up with the trail closure. We seldom close, but sometimes people don't because it's a thread.
Yeah.
We don't update it enough to make sure everyone knows about it. So we try to make sure that gets out to the bike shops and obviously the websites and so on and so forth. But Instagram and Facebook are our go-tos in terms of getting information out.
Yeah.
That seems to be the best course of action. But like I said, Visit Cherokee NC is another great one.
Awesome. So when it comes to trail closures, how does the winter affect the trails here?
We have, the trails are great. They've been built, in my opinion, perfectly. They drain well. It can rain here for 2-3 days and give it 6 hours, and it'll be fine to ride for the most part, other than a spot or two. In the winter, though, you get that freeze thaw when it turns it into peanut butter. Whenever it gets down to below 20, or it gets down to 20 degrees, but yet gets up to 45 degrees during the day, and then it does it again. You know exactly what I'm talking about. The peanut butter sort of stuff, we'll close it at that point. That's pretty much the only time we'll ever close it, unless we close it for an event.
Okay.
But this past year, it was the freeze thaw for some reason was extra bad this year. So usually in years past we closed for 2 weeks. We were closed for a couple months this past winter.
It would be interesting to throw a counter on our podcast to hear how many times we've mentioned freeze thaw. But honestly, it does seem like this year has been a little more brutal on that. I mean, we've had such a fluctuation of range of temperatures and moisture. So, I mean, that's probably why we've said it so many times.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. And it will destroy a trail if you ride on it especially when it's in that peanut butter. Because we want to keep our stuff pristine. You ride through that mess and it creates your drainage is off then. Your erosion controls, the erosion measures that you took are wasted at that point. So we don't like to close, but for the betterment of the trail and to maintain our asset, we will close.
Yeah. Are there certain trails on the mountain that are a little more suited for wet weather riding?
Not really. They're all pretty much the same.
Okay.
It's all good clay. There's more canopy on Uktena. So
Okay.
I would say that one would be a better one to take. It's a little narrower. It's got a little more chunder on it, and like I said, the canopy is a little denser on
Okay,
that
cool.
side. It's exciting to talk about Fire Mountain. It is my baby. We're very proud of our little trail system here. We invite anyone and everyone to come visit us. We have a lot more to offer than just the trail. Also, stick around for a day or two.
Yeah.
Got some of the. It's the most beautiful place on earth. Western North Carolina in general is. You know as well as I do what we're lucky to walk out our back door and have. And this is just another jewel in that. So yeah, I would just say thanks for having us.
Yeah,
and
Jeremy,
thanks for putting us out there.
Thanks for making the time for us. We
Pleasure.
appreciate it.
Pleasure's mine.
That's really good info. That location out in Cherokee is primo terrain. And I'm really glad to hear that they're curating their own local riding scene. And I'm also glad to hear that they're welcoming e-bikes with open arms.
I've ridden both e-bikes and pedal bikes there. Very fun on both. But in the summer, when it's super hot and humid, that extra e-bike push really helps up the fun meter.
Yeah, I'll have to get out there on an e-bike myself and see what it's all about. How about the weather?
So it's going to be a hot wrap up to this week, like really hot, but showing very little rain. We've got like a high pressure system just kind of chilling out, hanging out with us here. But still, I'm going to say there's a chance of a pop-up storm or two. You can't keep this rainforest down, that's for sure. But starting Sunday, as that high pressure system moves out, it cools off, but those rain chances increase drastically. So get those morning rides in if possible.
Duly noted. Yeah, I'll try to get out as early as I can next week.
Well, guys, that's a wrap on this week's episode. And as always, you can find us on social media. Just search Pisgah Podcast. And we've got shirts for sale. And also adding to the web store this week will be some koozies, some fancy magnetic ones as well. So just hit up pisgahpodcast.bigcartel.com.
And if you ever went to Cherokee, North Carolina with only a couple dollars in your wallet, but you left with enough to buy a new e-bike, go ahead and click subscribe and please share with your friends.
Would you put it all on black or all on red?
I don't know. It depends on how I'm feeling that day. I'd have to have anything to put on any colors.